Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the Ask Ryu show. Felt pretty good recording the first one. I'm actually going to check right now. I'm not sure how many views it's had, but I did answer a ton of questions in the AMA thread that I've got on ESEA. I also answered some questions and stuff from Twitter, and ready for episode 2. So I'm just going to jump right into the questions. The first question, which is a great question and a question I feel like there's a ton of opinions on, came in from Lim on the ESCA forums, and he asked, "What is my personal explanation of North America's shortcomings at majors and international events in general?" And I think there's a million correct answers to that question. I believe that North America lacks leadership. And I think it starts very early in some of the talented players' careers where they don't have someone to teach them the correct, and I say correct with air quotes because I think people will challenge that a bit, the correct way to play team Counter-Strike. I think that we tend to favor very much so individual play, individual heroes, great aim, and we don't tend to lavish praise on the great brains, the intelligence, the smart players, the teammates that set up a lot of the plays that you see from the other, the individual kind of all-star type players. The support players and the supporting cast don't tend to get the same kind of love. And so therefore a lot of the super teams that we see people try to put together when they're like, hey, who would you put as your top 5? They tend to all be superstars. There's a lot of ego. There's a lot of pride. And then there's a lot of greed, I think, when it comes to chasing frags, to try to be at the top of the stats page. And I think all those things combined leads to what we tend to see, where we have teams that don't have a lot of great teamwork against teams in Europe that have just as good of aim or better and great teamwork. And I really do believe that in a team game like this, and I think I actually proved this last season on our team, not this last Pro League season, the season prior when we were in Premier. We played against teams that had better aim than us probably fairly often, but we had the best teamwork in Premier, hands down, and we were able to kind of walk through the division and make it into the Pro League. And I think that that is a great example of how it can and should be done. I just think that that's kind of an oddity in North America. So to answer the question, my explanation of our shortcomings at majors and international events, I think it starts with the lack of leadership very early on. I think it kind of carries all the way through. Teams win because they have better aim than the people they're playing against, so that's the way they tend to play throughout their careers. When they get to the pro division, then they tend to struggle a little bit. If they get on a team that's good enough to make it to an international event, they then go against people that have just as good of aim but better teamwork, and the teamwork of the Europeans tends to trump the style of North America, which is very pick heavy, very aim heavy, and very individually focused as opposed to team focused. So that would be my answer to that question. I think I could probably do an entire show just on that question, but that won't be today. Appreciate the question, though, Lim. It's a good one. Another question that I had that came in from the ESEA forums is about my team, about Enemy. How do I think our team is going to do this coming season, next season, now that we clinched a spot in Pro League for the next season, and also going into RGN Land? RGN Land is actually scheduled to start 2 minutes ago, so I've got the page up here to see when it actually kicks off. I think towards the end of this season, we actually started to play a little bit better. I think there's a couple different reasons for that, but I also feel like our teamwork didn't really hit the level that I was hoping it would throughout the entire season. When we make roster changes, this happens a lot. We make roster changes, there's a period of time. I'm glad you guys can't see my hands because my hands have been moving this entire episode. There's a period of time where you're kind of adjusting to a different teammate's style of play. Maybe they play a little faster. Maybe they tend to be the guy throwing the flashbang instead of the guy peeking off the flashbang. And you kind of just have to feel that out. And it's very, very difficult to do that in a week or two. So when we changed roster at the start of the season, I figured, okay, the first couple matches might be a little bit rough. We're going to have to smooth some edges out, but that didn't really seem to improve too much throughout the season. I think it got a little bit better because we hammered it so hard in practice and stuff outside of our matches, that it was a little bit better at the end of the season. Still not to the degree that I would like to see it. I actually contest that our teamwork in Premier was better than our teamwork this current season. I think if we continue to close the gap on some of the teams like LG and Liquid and CLG, which at the start of the season they would just plow us. I mean, it was bad. Towards the end of the season, we actually got really close to beating all three of those teams. We beat Cloud9 twice. I feel like if we can fix some of those small mistakes, we should have a really good season. And what we saw this season is that 11 or 12 win mark was close to top four, and that's what we needed to be to make the LAN event. So I think we've got a decent shot if we can continue to improve and if we can clean up a lot of those small mistakes while simultaneously improving our chemistry and teamwork to play a little bit better of like single unit Counter Strike instead of 5 individual unit Counter Strike, if that makes sense. As for RGN LAN, we've never played Renegade, so that to me is the big question mark. CLG is in our group, and I think that we've really struggled against them at LAN in the past. It'll be interesting to see how we do now, given what I just said about how we improved towards the end of the season. If I had to predict, I would say that we probably make it out of that group, but the real question mark to me is how we perform against Renegades. It's a team we've never played. We don't know too much about them. We've never seen their style outside of watching some of the matches that they played in. They're a very emotional team, so if they get started well, they kind of go on a tear. We'll have to be able to mentally stop that and mentally not come out of it mentally while that happens, if it happens, to be able to kind of swing the momentum back into our favor. So if I had to predict, I'd say that we make it out of groups at RGN, and then after that, I have no idea because I'm not sure what all the other teams, will look like. So that's my answer. Appreciate the question. Another question coming in from the AMA thread. Am I still off of work and how is that going? I am. Yep. For those of you that watched my stream, you know that a couple weeks ago I was laid off from my job, and I've been doing kind of full-time streaming as a test, kind of dabbling a little bit to see if it's something that I'd be able to do longer term. I will say that it has been absolutely a blast. I've truly enjoyed it. It's really fun, very enjoyable for me. The stream has been growing. We've been getting close to that 100 viewer mark, which I feel like can be the tipping point. If we hold 100 consistent viewers during the day stream, each day, then I feel like that has the opportunity to kind of swing real heavy to get to 200, 300, 400, 500. Or if I peak at 100, it can still grow the subscriber count, and I think that would be awesome. But it's definitely still what I'm doing, and I'm planning to do it for at least the rest of this month, possibly the next month, and then I'll make some decisions there career-wise based on how that goes. Appreciate that question, and hopefully some of the love and concern that's there. This question came in on Twitter. It came in from Ethan, and he asked, "Why did I join Enemy in the first place? Do I love the thing that I'm doing?" So when we were in Premier, I think most of the other teams in the Pro League at that time kind of had us pegged as the likely team to win Premier and to make it to the Pro League. And so we started to have a couple of pretty sizable sponsors float around. We also had a lot of love from the community. I felt like we had a really big match against a top 3 team in North America in a BO3. And because we won that, we kind of opened some eyes, turned some heads, and there was a lot of hype and love about our team. The way that we played, I think, was a little bit different than what most people were used to seeing in a North American team. The way we kind of carried ourselves. And so when we had that kind of growth of viewership and fans, we also had a couple of potential sponsors. And so I don't know if this question is, how did I join the team originally, or how did we join the org? I'm answering it as if it's more how and why did we join the org. If it's about how I joined the team, I'll just say that this has been my roster slot for like 2.5 years now. Like if you check the roster, I've been on it since 2013. We've just kind of progressed. We've changed pieces in and out as we've gotten better through the past couple seasons. But what made us decide on Enemy? We had a much bigger offer originally on our contracts from an org that just recently sponsored a CS:GO team. But when they sent us the contracts, it basically looked like this. It was like somebody took a piece of paper and they wrote some stuff on it, and they're like, "Okay, yeah, just go ahead, sign this." It was very, very unprofessional, not polished at all. Didn't really look like the org knew what they were doing. And interacting with them, it's definitely the sense that we got. We had some conversations with Enemy, and if you keep in mind, we were sponsored by Tempo Gaming, which was Glowstick, who's still our current manager. And The offer was less, but they actually sent like a professional contract. They got into kind of like a Skype meeting with us, and we walked through the contract together. These are the terms that we want to change. This is what we want to add. We want to remove. We also kind of want this. Can you guys do that? We kind of negotiated. It was very business-like, and that's one of the main reasons that we decided to go with Enemy. They were also had a League of Legends team in the LCS at the time, which was big for us to get some exposure and some potential sponsorship opportunities that we wouldn't have gotten if we went with the other org. And then we just felt like there was a right combination of they're actually doing things right, from a standpoint of business and growing the brand and all those things, but they're also still gamers and cool guys. And I think that combined is a good way, is a good mix, and for us that was really appealing. So that's why we ended up choosing Enemy. And then one more question that came in from Twitter. I just saw it. It was a pretty good question. What do I think? This came in from King Brut. What do I think NIP needs to return to glory? Unfortunately, I feel like it's too late for those guys. I feel like they could absolutely get back to glory if they kept what they had, but I don't think that's what they're doing right now. I think it's pretty understood in the community that NIP is playing out their contracts. Come January, when their contracts end, there's going to be a different team put together for that brand, that franchise, and then what happens to the other players? Like if it's true that Get Right's moving to North America and blah 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 and all those rumors, then I think NIP will look radically different than what it did for the past several years that we've kind of become accustomed to. So, do I think they can fix some of the things that they have going wrong? I do. I don't think that that's their goal now. I think they're playing loose. They're playing fun because they know they've got a couple months left. The rest of this month and the rest of next month, and then I think that they're all moving on. And that's that. So that's a wrap on episode 2. What did we finish at? About 12 minutes, which is a good number. Love to keep the show between 10 and 15 minutes so it's consumable. People will actually watch it, but you can watch it while you're driving, or you can watch it before I stream, or whatever it is that tickles your fancy. If you guys have any questions, again, Ask Ryu is the hashtag on Twitter. You can email me directly, ryu@ryugaming.com, or you can post in the AMA thread. And hopefully I'll have episode 3 up in a day or two to answer some more questions from you guys. And as always, appreciate you watching.